The Witch, also known as The Witch Part 1 Subversion, is a 2018 Korean action movie that falls into the genre of test subject breaks containment. So think of Eleven from Stranger Things or X-23 and Wolverine from Wolverine, and you get the gist of what's going on here. What separates this from those stories is the performance by Kim Da-mi as the titular character. She really does a good job fooling her peers and fooling the audience as to what her true intentions are. A lot of people compare this to the John Wick movies, and that's fair, but I think unlike the John Wick movies, The Witch actually has a good story. I've also heard people complain that it's not very well paced and that it's kind of a slow burn, but if you're not expecting hordes of dudes to get shot in the face from minute one and you just sit and enjoy the movie, their third act payoff is really worth the wait. And I enjoyed this movie quite thoroughly, and I can't wait to dive into the sequel. Weird, the Al Yankovic story, is a comedic satire of a musical biopic that we've all seen tons of. Think Ray or the one about Johnny Cash, Walk the Line. But this whole movie hinges on the joke that Weird Al Yankovic was one of the greatest musicians who ever lived, and he came up with the most original idea ever, which was to parody songs. They take this joke through the whole movie, and it pretty much does its job to create an entertaining experience. I grew up listening to Weird Al Yankovic. My dad had In 3D in the family's record collection, and then Dare to Be Stupid is actually the first CD I ever spent my own money on. So I'm an old school fan of Weird Al. And I quite enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a hilarious choice to have a buff Daniel Radcliffe play Weird Al. And I really enjoyed all the other cameos and Easter eggs that were in this movie. It's not going to be an on-repeat classic for me, but I enjoyed it. My only complaint is that they seem to throw a ton of shade on Madonna for reasons that I do not understand. But if you're a fan of Weird Al, I definitely recommend this movie, but you've probably seen it already. Peking Opera Blues takes place in 1913 Beijing amidst much political turmoil of the time, and it features three women whose lives intersect in interesting and surprising ways. My plot synopsis can never do justice to such a rich and lavish movie with such great characters and their interactions with each other. This is one that I had no idea what to expect, but as the movie went on, I got drawn into the story and the characters. The actresses do a wonderful job. The supporting cast does a great job. There's action, gunplay, wire work, all kinds of great costumes. Everything about this movie is amazing. This is held up by a lot of people as one of the best movies of all time, and I can see why. This came into my orbit kind of randomly, but I'm glad I decided to watch it. I loved it. The Clove Hitch Killer from 2018 is a very interesting serial killer movie. I bought this from Hamilton Book after I saw Ryan Hollinger made a video about it, because I love Ryan Hollinger. However, I wanted to watch the movie before I watched his video, so I did both, and I'm here to say this is one that's worth checking out. In a post-Silence of the Lambs world, what can you do with a serial killer film that hasn't been done a million times before? This film tries to explore the mundanity of the character's everyday life as the serial killer's plot is discovered by his son, who looks up to him immensely. Dylan McDermott and all the other actors are really great in this, and there are many moments of scares and tension that will leave your hair standing on end. A lot of people don't enjoy how this film ends, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Faults is a lot like Can Ellen Be Saved, which is a made-for-TV movie from the 70s that I've talked about before. It revolves around a family who is trying to rescue their daughter from a cult, and they enlist the help of a failing author who specializes in deprogramming people who are in cults and bringing them back to their families. So the plot is almost the same as Can Ellen Be Saved. The way it plays out is completely different. The film stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Leland Orser in a rare starring role. This was my favorite movie I watched this week, and it really touches on the power of words, the power of suggestion, power of seduction, hypnosis, all of those things. The entire movie almost takes place in a pair of adjoining motel rooms. If you want to watch a low-budget, dark comedy thriller, I highly recommend Faults from 2014. The Others is a haunted house-style horror movie from 2001 that is making a little bit of a renaissance right now. A lot of people have been talking about it. I see it on a lot of YouTube videos, etc., etc. So when I came across a copy of this on Blu-ray, I knew I'd have to check it out again. I saw it way back in the day, but I completely forgot what it was about. And you know that saying, oh, what's a movie you would watch for the first time again if you could or whatever? Well, I know this movie has a twist ending that everybody talks about, but I completely forgot what it was. Nicole Kidman stars in this movie, and she looks absolutely smashing from start to finish. I wondered, as I was watching this movie, if it would play well in black and white. There are some elements of color, but it's not a particularly colorful movie. And I would love to see it regraded in black and white. I don't know why, but I think it would work well that way. As a PG-13 horror movie, I think it's worth checking out, though I wouldn't go out of your way to watch it. It's not going to change your life. It's just a cool little movie from almost 25 years ago. I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore is a mouthful of a title for a movie from Netflix from 2017. I watched this because Jane Levy is in it. I'm trying to watch everything that she's in after seeing her performance in Evil Dead 2013 and Don't Breathe. But the real star of the show here is the great Melanie Lynskey, who plays Ruth, a middle-aged suburban woman who is just on her own. She's an alcoholic and has a depressing job, and she gets pushed to her limit when her house is broken into and her laptop and some silverware is stolen. She befriends a neighbor played by Elijah Wood, and they go on a quest to get her stuff back. Though this movie begins as a dark comedy, it actually escalates into exploitation level violence towards the end, and I found that to be quite surprising for the tone of this movie. Having said that, I think it's worth a watch. Again, not life-changing. I think it says a lot of things about modernity, and I didn't walk away thinking that the themes were well stated enough to make sense overall, but I liked the characters that Lynskey and Elijah Wood played, and their very subtle friendship that has potential for romance. I found myself able to latch on to that part of the story. Carrie is a classic horror movie from 1976, directed by Brian De Palma and starring Sissy Spacek. I believe I've seen this movie before. I can't remember when, but I did not mark this as a rewatch because I don't remember anything about it. Everybody knows the plot, but I found some things surprising about it as I actually sat and watched through the movie. The story is about a girl who is pretty much bullied by her peers and her overbearing religious zealot of a mother, and she discovers that she develops telekinesis powers at puberty and uses them. There are some really beautiful scenes in this movie, some really scary scenes, and some things that are horribly dated about this movie. I really loved Sissy Spacek's performance as Carrie. A lot of the other performances left a lot to be desired. I hate to say, but I felt like fast forwarding every time John Travolta was on the screen. And I don't have anything against Travolta. I like him. I have to admit that I watched this movie because I want to watch the 2002 remake starring Angela Bettis, but I figured I should watch the original first so I could compare them. So look for that in a future video. And speaking of future videos, that's it for this one. So thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you on the next one.